This is section 2.6. It is by far, so far, the most important section that you will have. By far. This section is all about the code. If you are one of my students, and you are, then that means you need to know the code. This code never changes. It will always stay the same. It will help you tremendously in word problems, because that's what word problems are. They're problems that are written in code, and the code that they're written in is words. So as long as you know the code, you can rewrite the word problem in numbers and equations so that you can solve the word problem faster. That's what the code is all about. So, most of the code you already know. You just don't know that you know it. Nobody's told you that you know it. All of this needs to be written down. Probably not on a post-it, although if you want to, you can put it on a post-it. I wouldn't mind that. But you do need to make sure that you pay attention to a few things. So I know you've seen words for adding, and words for subtracting, and words for multiplying, and words for dividing, and words for equal, because that's what it looks like it is. But it's more than that. Okay? So when we're talking about addition, the official word to say that we're talking about is addition is the word sum. So every time you see the word sum, you should think, oh, that's what you get when you add, because that's officially what it is. So that's how you know they're talking about using that. The official word for subtraction is difference. The official word for multiplication is product, and the official word for divide is quotient. Equal doesn't have an official word, but the two most used words that mean equal are is and results in. So I'll put them both in that color. All these other words, and you might come up with more, mean whatever they're underneath. If you see the word plus, that means we're talking about addition. If you see the word minus, that means we're talking about subtraction. You see the word times, we're talking about multiplication. If you see the word ratio, that means we're talking about a division problem. Same thing with a fraction, because a ratio is a fraction. Now, some of these are special in and of themselves. So, for example, more and more than are technically different, but they work the exact same. So I don't put any special emphasis on more than I do on more. You'll understand the difference between more and more than in a minute, though. Total is used a lot. Increase is used every once in a while. For subtraction, there's some interesting things you have to take special note of. So take away is good for subtraction. Less is good for subtraction, like 4 less 5. That means 4 minus 5. Decreased is good for subtraction, with or without the D, because it could be decrease or decreased. Subtracted from and less than, you see how I put them in quotation marks? That's because they are super special. These are two of the special phrases. Any special phrase automatically, and I'll put that in parentheses so you'll know I'm talking about stuff in parentheses, automatically flips the information. I'll explain more what I mean about that in a second. But the reason why it does that is because these are ones that refer to things that have already come. So you're subtracting from a number. You're less than a number. So it's stuff that's happened already. Same thing with divided by. It's a special phrase too, although it's used a lot less than these two are. These two are major ones. You have to keep a really close eye out for those two. Times means multiply. Multiplied obviously means multiply. Any derivative of these words means that word. Twice and double are special because they specifically mean times 2 only. So they build in the number you're multiplying it by already in the word. The word of is used a lot for multiplication. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always multiplication, but it's used a lot for multiplication. Whenever you're talking about of some number, that's when it's multiplication. So divide is quotient divided by per and ratio. Now that we have all those, let's talk about what I really mean about a code, because you've seen all that before, but it didn't necessarily make it all easy for you. So watch what happens. I am on page 75 in the book. You need to turn to page 75 in the book. I am looking at the classwork exercises. Problem number 6. It says 5 more than 2 times a number. Now I shortcutted the word sum into symbols. I go ahead and do that because it's shorter for me to write. But in your book, I doubt they shortcutted them. They did shortcut the 2. That shocked me. Okay, so you know that means number. Not only does it hashtag, but it's also number. And you'll probably learn what hashtag is really soon. When you're doing these translating phrases into letters and numbers, first start with the numbers because they're easy. 5 is obviously going to be a 5. 2 is obviously a 2. More than was underneath what symbol? It's underneath the plus. And times was underneath multiplication. And then a number, we don't know what the number is unless they specifically told us what to use. And they did not. So since they didn't tell you what to use, you can pick whatever you want to use. Usually when we talk about a number, they pick an N, because number starts with N. That's why. You could pick an A if you want. You could pick an X, you could pick a Z, you could pick a Y, etc., etc. Now that I've gotten all that out, all I have to do now is squish it all together. So that's 5 plus 2 times N is just 2N. Just squish it together. They're always going to go in order like that unless you hit one of those special phrases. When you hit a special phrase, it changes your order a little bit. But it's always from left to right because we read from left to right in this country. So, problem number 8. Says the quotient of a number squared and 3. Quotient means division, right? Well, since we're talking about division, you can write division 2 different ways. You can write division with this symbol, or you could write division with a fraction bar. If you write it with this symbol, everything goes in the order from left to right. If you write it with a fraction bar, everything goes in order from top to bottom. So right here where it says the quotient of a number squared, since they told me that first, the number squared part, that's what I write over here. And it's also what would go up here. And 3, that and tells me what comes on the other side of the quotient. So my 3 would go here, or in that problem over there. Either one of these is correct, and then you squish it together just like before. But you always look for the and so you know where to separate your stuff. That's all and means. And does not mean addition. It's only addition when you use the word sum or plus. And means we're talking about two different things, and the second one comes behind the and. That's all and means. Okay, so I've given you the basics of the code, but there are two more really important code phrases you need to know. Remember I told you needed to keep an eye out for subtracted from and less than, because those told you something specific and it was to flip your information. Well, these two phrases tell you something specific also. You need to keep a lookout for the sum of and the difference of. Now we just had one that said the quotient of, and we didn't have any parentheses in that one, but that's also not in my list. When they use the sum of, that means you're going to need parentheses. Both of these means you're going to need parentheses. And the difference of means you're going to need parentheses. So for the sum of, we would write some parentheses, and there'll be a plus in between them. And for the difference of, we have to put in some parentheses with a minus in between them. So let's look at problem number 9. Problem number 9 says 4 times the sum of a number and 9. Well, we already said that the 4 is going to be a 4. Times we know is multiplication. The sum of tells me I need some parentheses with a plus in it. And then the stuff behind that tells me what goes inside of my parentheses. So my first number, which we decided was going to be n because that's my number, and tells me where my plus is going to be. And then the 9 tells me what the last number is. And then I just squish it together. I don't need to write the multiplication sign, but I could if I wanted to. If this was the difference of, they're still going to have the word and there, but the and would be where your minus sign goes. So they tell you the numbers, and you need to put these numbers in order in your parentheses. Classwork. I know you're thinking, gosh, that was really short to have classwork this soon, but that's a lot for you to remember and keep up with. So, yeah, classwork. I'll write it up here. Make sure you get these checked before you try to go into your homework. Two through 12 even. And then number 16, A, B, and C, which reminds me, I need to do problem number 18 for you. Don't go anywhere. And let me do it real quick so you can understand how to do 16. Problem number 18 in the practice exercises. On page 76. Says, let W be the width of a rectangle whose, hold on. Whose length is 4 units more than its width. B is, what is the length? C is find the area. And D is find the perimeter. Real problem. It says, let W be the width of a rectangle whose length is 4 units more than its width. That let W part, since W is going to be the width, that means my W has to equal my width. That's the whole point of it. So when they say, what is the width? Our answer is W. That's what we're calling it. We don't change it. We don't find out what it is. They didn't ask all that. They just wanted to know what it was, and what we're calling it is W. That's what they told us to call it. They say the length is, remember my equal sign is my is, 4 units more than. What does 4 units, 4 we know is 4. What does more than mean? More than is plus the width. And what did we say our width was? W. So our length must be 4 plus W. Now you see why I'm going over it. Then they want you to find the area and find the perimeter. Now that we've gotten here, I'm going to tell you you need to have drawn a picture if you have not already. Go ahead and draw you a picture so that you can see what we're talking about. They said it was a rectangle. We said the length was 4 plus W and that our width was W. I typically make my length the longest side no matter which side it's on. I don't know why I do that, I just do. So now that we have this, for the area, they told you that the area is equal to length times width. We said that our length was 4 plus W, and we want to multiply that by our width, which is W. So 4 times W is 4W, and then W times W is W squared. So that makes our area W squared plus 4W. Or you could write 4W plus W squared. I wrote it this way because this is the technical, prettier way to write your exponents first before you write just your plain number. For finding the perimeter, they told you P equals 2L plus 2W, where L is our length and W is our width. L we said was 4 plus W, and our width we said we were just going to call W. So that means that P has to equal 8 plus 2W plus 2W. So P equals 8 plus 4W. Or 4W plus 8 technically is better. Put that letter first. Either one. But you see how I showed my work? Showing your work is important, but the most important thing for these kinds of problems where you have to label stuff is to go ahead and label it out so that you can see what you're talking about. Because even if they wouldn't have given you the formulas, you could have come up here and said, this side is W and that side is 4 plus W, which means my perimeter is going to be W plus W plus W plus W. That's 4 W's. And then 4 plus 4, that's 8. Just adding them up, because you know to find the perimeter by adding up all the sides. Same way with the area, you know it's length times width, so you know to multiply those two. 4 times W is 4W, W times W is W squared. So just getting the picture is a whole lot helpful. Understanding that when they write these things, when they tell you let W be the width, that means you have to label it that way. That's one of the hardest things to get used to in algebra, is labeling stuff. So that whole, whenever they use the word let, that's what clues you in that you're going to have this big situation where you've got to set stuff up. That word let gets on people's nerves, but it's there nonetheless. So that is your classwork. Your homework for this section is also from the practice exercises. Numbers 1 through 11 odd, and 17 and 19. So you can get some practice with those harder problems. If you have a question on them, please let me know. You got that cell phone now, you can take a picture, you can text it to me so I can see what you're doing. Things are easier now than they were before, I promise. Just make sure you're taking good pictures. I will talk to you when you get to the next section. Bye.